Yeah, whoa, yeah. Tell me what's the point of doing life alone? Swings and merry-goes don't feel the same. No, I know it's hard to trust when you've been hurt before, but I wanna be the one to share that pain. Oh yeah, take my hand and walk with me. Yeah, on the road that never ends.
Hey folks, welcome to the table. My name's Jesse Baker. I'm the pastor at Davis Street United Methodist Church. I was invited to be a part of conversation thanks to some of the good folks at Front Street UMC, Stefan being one of them. We were able to just let the guards down, have a conversation, thinking about what it really means to be a Methodist family. What is it that binds us together? So what you're going to see is a conversation that just lays it all out. Some of the high points, but also some of the low points, and hopefully a way that we can think about this so that we can move forward together and make our family really strong. So I hope you enjoy this conversation.
The first thing I'm going to ask is, all of you know that big C word that we have in Methodism, connectionalism. And so I just want to start here as a space of we are connected as pastors. We get together at district events and other opportunities. But what does connectionalism mean to you? What has it meant to you? And do you have a anecdotal story of yourself and some type of connection with another church or another pastor or another group that you love to share in that moment of connection?
You know, connectionalism to me, I mean, really honest, connectionalism to me often for a long time, and maybe still today, means I get an appointment. Ooh. As an elder, I get an appointment. And beyond that, I usually became friends or were friends with the DS. Beyond that, unless it's somebody that I had served with as a lead pastor or they were an associate pastor, the fingers, or if I went to school with them, they kind of ended. It was insular. It was really sad. And you felt almost alone, which I think it really is sad, but it happens. So for me, the connection was a word, but to me, it was a practical word and not necessarily a theological word as it should be. I'm just being raw. I mean, that's just where I have discovered my life had been, until, as of late, in the last 10 years has been different, but, or 15, but first half or so, that's the way it felt, Well, I just ended the conversation. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Yeah. All right.
I've noticed that in the context of being appointed in one church, but then serving on staff at another church, trying to interact with those two universes feels like I'm holding two universes in two hands. I say that's not how this works. It's not whoever has the most toys gets to be the leader of the conversation. Your voice is just as valuable and needed as their voices. And you get to voice those things and say, hey, this is the stuff that's important to our community, and we think that this should be paid attention to.
Yeah. That's absolutely valid and valuable. And I'm already hearing in this that connectionalism has some work to be done still. It's an aspirational thing, and it's worked in a number of places, but it still has some more. But Dwayne, aside from Josh, you had a move technically, but you didn't go terribly far. You had the biggest transition this year with moving from where you were to First Graham. Has connectionalism felt like a helpful thing in that transition process, being received by a new church?
I think so. I think it's one of the benefits of United Methodism. One of the great things about it, I look at connectionalism. Part of this, maybe this sounds like a cliche textbook answer, but connectionalism is like the glue that holds all the churches together. It allows each church, no matter what size they are, where they're located, to lean into their unique identity and bring gifts that they have. But I can understand why there's always been this isolationism, or some churches not feeling like
they're part.
The comparison, the competition,
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Always
You have to address. You have to be actually connected you have to address that competitiveness and egos. But
Yeah.
if you can address them, and the eye does not say to the hand, "We don't need you," and the hand doesn't say to the foot, "Who needs you?"
Yeah.
Man, if you do that, whew, I mean, I've seen glimpses of it. Your question was, what is connectionalism to you? But
Yeah.
what is it? What is it? What are the pluses and minuses? Where have you experienced either sides of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Well, just to build one more negative before we start moving on to the positive,
Yeah. Oh,
and
good.
connecting it with the disaffiliation conversation. I mean, this was one of the things that come up. The little church stuck in a little corner in Burlington that nobody goes to felt completely isolated. So connectionalism was an idea, it was a word, but it was sort of like trickle down economics. All that happens up there, and it just hasn't reached us yet. And that it was one of the questions that came up in the conversation with the district superintendent is like, what has the UMC ever done for us?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a very pointed question, and the DS was put on the spot. And I think he did a decent enough job, but what I think gets missed sometimes, and maybe this can begin to turn it to something positive, is that, and this is maybe something of our culture, that connectionalism is always something that's done for us. We're the passive, receptive agents, as opposed to churches saying, here's what we've done for it. So it's a word, it's a theological category, but it's also like a coin, two-sided, that churches need to buy into. It is a way of life.
Yeah.
And it's not just something that comes to us, but something we have to buy into. So, and that's the challenge, right? For
Taking
both sides.
part of the connection, taking part of it, put something into
Right.
it that you're giving and not just expect, because one thing that hit me when you said that is, I never thought about it, but I think about a church with what has the denomination done for me? Well, that's really not the point. The point is, what are we doing to serve the kingdom as a community, as a connection? Because certainly the United Methodist Church does a lot more than Front Street could do on its own. I mean, literally just around the globe.
You know, can I say this? There's one thing that will undermine connectionalism is caring where the idea comes from. All of us have egos about where ideas come from. I came up with this. Our church came up with this order. That was the greatest thing that ever happened when we cooperated with two other churches. I no longer cared where any idea came from. Can we, is that something we can do well together? Period. Like, so if we can, I think, so the venom to connectionalism is egos related to ideas. I mean, there's obvious egos related to whether you're loved and thought of as the most important thing, right? But if we could deal with that one. The second hidden venom, poison, is like being picky about where the idea comes from. And like, I don't care where it comes from anymore. So, and you get that in a room with people, you really have got something. That's starting to, now this is actually going to start to look like the kingdom of God. Or I don't care who said it, like that. Let's get on board with that kind of thing. So
And we're in a really interesting space where Davis Street United Methodist sold their building and moved in with us about a year and a half ago. And so we're two churches in one building. And the history of our church, we used to be West Burlington, but the building burned and then we rebuilt. But in that in between time, we were hosted by Westminster Presbyterian.
Oh.
And so the relationship, though, is different, where we shared a building then, we share one now, but now there's all this crossover. There, it was never expected that our youth would go to their youth group, or that they would participate in a mission project with us. That just wasn't an expectation. So the two churches really functioned as two separate churches. And then when the relationship ended, because we moved out, it was like, bye. But there's so much rich crossover with Davis Street because we're both United Methodists, because we're cut from the same cloth. Because we have this inherent connectedness that from the minute they walked in the door, there was a connection because we spoke the same language. You know, we understood each other in a different way than sharing space with the Presbyterian folks. Those folks were great and they were phenomenal to us in that day and time, but they're just a different feel to sharing a space with another United Methodist congregation. Their youth have come to our youth group not because anybody forced them to, they just showed up. Davis Street is doing a mission project. We're like, oh, could we give some things to that mission project? It's just the back and forth and ebb and flow of friendship and participation. We have dinners for 8. We have a whole bunch of Davis Street folks that signed up for dinner for 8. So they're getting to know each other around the table. There's no devotion, there's no mission, there's no worship, there's no education. Other than just get to know each other around the table.
Something divine about that.
Yeah,
There is.
Mhm.
There is. And it's just been wonderful to live in this space together and watch this organic kind of connection.
There's some
With a capital
intentionality
C.
though. It's
Yeah.
not 100% organic. Part of it is intentional, right? And that requires
Providing opportunity,
Right.
making sure they know what we're doing, we know what they're doing, and they know that they're welcome.
Yeah.
And we know that we're welcome. There's just a sense of, yeah, this is us, this is you, but there is this collective we that's kind of growing at the same time.
Do you pitch it for each other? In other words, you're going out of town, he preached for you, or all of that sort of stuff?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, good.
That's a good setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've even talked about, church seasons to come, how to do some of that rotation that you all talked about
Yeah.
Yeah.
earlier of taking weeks and doing
Yeah.
both churches and different things. Like
Just
that.
we preached the
Yeah.
first Sunday of the series in both congregations, the same sermon, then
Yeah.
I preached the next one, and just to, and we've done Advent, or we've done Christmas Eve together, Easter, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, we did Pentecost and had a picnic together. So we've created some intentional time to do that, but there's a lot of things that develop around that
Yeah.
because we're both United Methodists, and there is the possibility of becoming one church maybe at some point.
Yeah.
So what is it? Is there a sign for both churches out front?
Not a sign on the doors.
There's an industry sign on the door.
Yeah, on the door.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but not. Yeah,
Not
not
on
up there. But interestingly, we've
Front
had
signs are expensive.
a couple. We've had 2 weeks recently where different families came and visited our church at 9:30. And we don't even have a sign out front, so
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
Awesome.
100% know how they found us, but they did.
probably through another Davis Street person or
Yeah.
something, you know.
And a lot of times for pastoring, sometimes what we have to do is get out of the way,
Yeah.
and because it's not about me, it's not about any of us. So,
Hey again, folks. I'm curious to know if there were any themes that emerged from this. If things like fear and ego, which were talked about, if they resonate with you, if you have those same sort of experiences, and I'm sure we do. And one of the things that is the good news is that while that is a key feature of every story that's in the Bible, it's never the final word. God always has a way of bringing us out. So hopefully we enter into this story, we share our common weaknesses, but also hopefully share our faith and trust that God will bring us out of that and bring us and lead us into a much better place where His glory can be known, not through fear and ego, but through faith and through the love of Christ. So my blessings upon you all.
We pray for